I'm an American acupuncturist. Today I'm going to talk about and later demonstrate gua sha. Gua sha is a Chinese folk medicine technique, and in the hierarchy of Chinese medical power structures, gua sha is all the way at the bottom, and very well-educated, refined herbalists sometimes turn up their nose at this kind of simple medicine, but it's got real useful applications, and especially in regard to hot diseases like COVID-19. So gua means scrape, and sha means sediment. And the idea here is that your skin, which is supposed to be permeable, things are supposed to be able to get into you, but only under certain circumstances, and things are supposed to be able to get out of you, but only under certain circumstances. With a disease like COVID-19, your skin's functioning becomes impeded. It gets confused by fever. It kind of goes into lockdown. So once the pathogen is into you, getting it back out can be really difficult, which can be very dangerous. So the idea is that some things, old traumas, high fevers, sometimes a lifetime of certain kinds of lifestyle choices, including especially smoking or drinking or taking hot drugs, can cause kind of a chronic flooding. So blood and other fluids are constantly going toward the surface of the body, and then they recede when the fever is gone, or when you're not drunk anymore, or when the emotional trauma or physical trauma has been removed. But they leave behind sediment. When there's a flood, even though the waters go back, it leaves grit and dirt and fish bones and other kinds of crud that interferes with things moving in and out of the skin. So there are different techniques for trying to address that sediment, but with gua sha, you scrape the skin, and the idea is to try to break up or disturb or stir up the sediment that's been deposited in the past, and allow it to dissipate so that your skin can once again become a permeable structure that has a sense of its own and knows when to open and when to close and when to let things out and when to let things in. If you want to make an acupuncturist really pissed off, ask him or her about scraping or about dry needling. These are things that the physical therapy profession has stolen from acupuncturists. And scraping is gua sha and dry needling is acupuncture. They saw the success that we acupuncturists were having with our craft, and they swiped these techniques and they came up with a totally ludicrous kind of justification for why they do it. They came up with all these they injure people with dry needling, and they use scraping inappropriately in some people who aren't well able to tolerate it. So just goes to show the danger you can create with a little bit of knowledge. And if you want these Chinese medical techniques, you should go to a licensed acupuncturist. So the other thing that gua sha is very useful for, in addition to these past floods that left sediment behind, is when you're in a current flood. So one of the characteristics of COVID-19 is the high fevers that accompany it. And so heat rising tends to come to the surface of the body, but again, in a hot condition, these various defense mechanisms are going to kick in that, although they're intended to protect you, they can paradoxically end up making it more difficult to resolve the problem. So if a person is having high fevers and they're suffering from the fever, doing gua sha in the way that I'm going to demonstrate in just a minute can be helpful at breaking the fever, at helping them get over that crisis point, and hopefully starting to heal. I need to roll my sleeves up because gua sha is a little bit messy, and just as I'm doing that and getting ready to go back to my treatment room, I'll tell you that the things you want to have on hand for gua sha, first of all, you need a tool of some kind. I use a peanut butter jar lid, which was the recommendation by my teacher, Arya Nielsen. Arya pretty much single-handedly made gua sha the prominent modality it is in the West. She's got a book out that's just called Gua Sha, Arya Lsen is her last name. And she's full of energy. She's a very nice person, great person. And her book will tell you more than you knew you needed to know about gua sha. But anyway, she recommends using a peanut butter jar lid, and I'm talking about an old-fashioned metal one that's got a smooth rolled edge. So it's hard, it's smooth, and then you'll see as I'm using it, there are different reasons why it's effective. Traditionally, the Chinese would use tools made out of water buffalo horn. They just look like a little oblong or a little oval of flat, shiny, smooth, hard stuff, or a soup spoon, or a coin. So you need some kind of hard tool that you're going to use to scrape the flesh with. And then the other thing you need is some kind of lubricant. Arya, again, suggests using Vicks Vapo Rub because it's a familiar smell. And, you know, this is all kind of freaky. People are kind of put off by it. So anything you can do to make it more comfortable is generally a good idea. Other people quibble. Vicks Vapor Rub has got mentholatum and eucalyptus in it, which opens and draws things out, but it's also cooling. And generally, blood moves better if it's warm. In this instance, though, where we're using it primarily to treat fever, to treat heat, the cooling properties of the eucalyptus and mentholatum would be perfectly consistent. So, Vicks Vapor Rub or some similar mentholatum kind of liniment if you've got it. If you don't, you can just use Vaseline or massage oil. If you're not using this for an acute fever, an acute acute hot illness, you could also use Tiger Balm or some warming liniment as well. You'll see the stuff like Vaseline or like Vicks Vapor Rub that's thicker, that's more substantial, tends to be more useful than thinner things like almond oil or other kinds of massage oils. Okay, I'm going to go back to my treatment room now, and we'll get started doing some gua sha.